Hey guys, it is Hart, breaking down the 7-game NBA slate tonight, going through some of my early look core plays, as well as building a potential lineup around those early look core plays. As always, injury news does change this stuff, so make sure to stay updated with me on Twitter at HartDFS. Check out my free Patreon link down below. Hit that like button, and let's get into the breakdown. So the big news with this slate is that the Warriors said they're going to rest their starters against Denver, most likely, so that's the huge news. We're going to be building around them, but we'll get to them in a minute. So starting off with the Lakers versus Indiana. A decently high scoring game. I think the total right now is 240 over under. LeBron and AD should be good to go. I still don't love the price tag on LeBron. I mean, he came off a triple double, but I think there's a little extra incentive for him to get there just because he was playing at the Garden for the only time this year. So he did want to really show out. They actually lost, but yeah, he got a triple double there. AD just super frustrating. I swear to God, if he's chalky tonight and he goes off, I'm gonna be so pissed. Right here versus the Knicks, last game, 37 minutes, 41 fantasy points. Dude was stuck on nine rebounds the whole second half. He plays like an absolute puss, too. I just don't get it. I don't get what's going on with him. From DFS perspective, I think you definitely can take a shot here against Indiana. I mean, it's a fantastic matchup, but the dude's just been playing like an absolute bum that last game. Just non-aggressive. Got 2 G Leaguers guarding him, but from a DFS perspective, he does look really good. So I do really like Anthony Davis. The rest of the team is just kind of there. Rui did play 40 minutes alongside LeBron and AD, which really makes no sense. But I guess you could look to him if you wanted to. I really think you just stay with LeBron and AD if you want a piece. From the Indiana side, Haliburton should be good to go. I'm assuming he's on some sort of minutes limit. With him back, it really takes out, TJ McConnell out of the kind of contention for playing. You could get to Nembhard if he still starts at 3,900. He should go back to his normal, like, mid-20s minutes. I guess he makes an okay value play, but he's usually non-aggressive when Halliburton's out there. Miles Turner looks decent, 7-3, going against AD. Not the best, but just kind of there. Buddy Hield's just kind of there, so a lot of guys who are just kind of there. Maybe if Duarte starts, but with all the guards being back, there's really no standout plays besides maybe getting to Miles Turner. Moving on to Memphis and Cleveland. Another spot where Memphis could definitely decide to rest people. They just played last night, coming off a back-to-back. They've done it before, so I wouldn't be surprised if they ruled out Bane and Morant. Steven Adams is already out, so we'll have to keep an eye out on this. But if everyone's in, I do think, once again, Bane and Morant look the best. You could get to Triple J. He's more of a secondary play. And then Xavier Tillman did start over Brandon Clark, and he was actually very solid. Did help that he got 4 steals. I mean, he's pretty solid at getting steals when he's out there, as you can see. But, yeah, he looks like an okay value play. I do think Brandon Clark's still viable coming off the bench. He saw 17 minutes, but maybe it could be one of those spots where they do start him. We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, the interest is really only Ja Morant and Desmond Bane for me. But if they get ruled out, obviously we're going to want to load up on guys like Dylan Brooks. Tyus Jones becomes pretty much a lock. Who else here? They'll probably start like a Xavier Williams, who would be decent value play. There's a lot of different options and ways that we can go. So stay updated with me on Twitter. But yeah, I'm assuming they'll probably rest one of those guys, if not both of them. And then we'll just have to get to the value for them, value for Golden State, and you can just plug and play whatever stud you want to pay up for. Donovan Mitchell on the other side, I really like him. I think it's a way too cheap a price tag for Mitchell. Now he has been, bad since coming back from the injury. Had that terrible game, did well against the Knicks. Then he came back, only played 20 minutes in a blowout, and then played 37 against Miami. Tough spot. Got you there with the 4 steals, but still just wasn't shooting the ball well. Expect a nice bounce back spot here against Memphis, so I do really like him. Rest of the team, just more secondary plays. Like Allen's price is still appealing to me. Still has that double-double upside. The rest of the team is just kind of there. Levert did have that big game for them off the bench last game, but I just don't really trust it. Ricky Rubio's there for like about 20-ish minutes. He's a decent value play. But that's really it. Kevin Love got DMP'd. You can always take a shot on him dart throws, but it seems like his minutes are not really there right now. So really the only play for me would be Donovan Mitchell, maybe taking a shot on Jarrett Allen. Moving on to Miami and the Knicks. I mean, the Miami guys are pretty, kind of priced down to a very appealing spot here. Bam 7-9, don't mind that. I like Jimmy going out at 7-4 against the Knicks. He's been a little bit more aggressive recently, so I like him. Tyler Hero's, decently cheap as well here. He plays a ton of minutes. He shoots the ball a ton. He's actually been decent at the peripheral stats as well. So it really just comes down to if he can hit a shot. So I do like the Heat guys a good amount. I also don't mind Kyle Lowry. Now his minutes haven't been there. He hasn't been aggressive, but Victor Oladipo it looks like he's not going to be able to play, and Gabe Vincent is questionable. So if both those guards are out, I expect more minutes to go back to Kyle Lowry at 4.9, which makes him very, very viable. They'll probably bump up minutes for a guy like Strus, who did absolutely nothing last game. They'll probably throw in maybe a Highsmith a little bit as shooting guard. So a little bit of interesting news there. We'll have to wait for the Miami side. But yeah, good amount of interest in some of those main guys there. For the Knicks side, it's really just going to be kind of the main three once again. Randall looks solid. Not the best matchup going against Spam. Brunson, probably should be super aggressive. And then RJ Barrett, he's the cheapest out of the three, but he's the most inconsistent of the three. He did get benched last game. The minutes are just all over the place with RJ Barrett right now. So he's super, super risky. I still think Quickly makes for a great value play. I'm assuming he'll be decently chalky just because people are going to see that last game, how he played 39 minutes. You can't expect that. He did play. He kind of filled in for RJ Barrett because they benched him. So you can kind of expect Quickly to play around 25 to 30 minutes. He'll be decently productive, anywhere from like 23 to 30 fantasy points, more if he's, playing well. So I think he still makes for a very solid value play. Quentin Grimes makes for a decent value play. The minutes are there. He kind of hit a ceiling last game, 12, 4, 3, and 2 steals. Usually floating around, 15 to 20-ish fantasy points, depending on how he's hitting the shots. But yeah, he makes for another okay value play. And in the bigs, Sims should start. He got in huge foul trouble, so Hartenstein came off the bench and was actually doing very, very well. But once again, not the best spot here versus Miami. So you can get to one of these two bigs. I don't love it, but they're definitely there for salary relief. Moving on to Charlotte and Chicago. LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, they both look really solid. Even Plumlee, I have a good amount of interest in this team. Going against Chicago, these guys are a little bit too cheap for their price tags and their expected production going in against Chicago. So I think my standouts would obviously be LaMelo and Terry. Very solid secondary plays would be Plumlee, even PJ, even Gordon Hayward, even though his minutes are kind of capped around 26, 27-ish. I think you can make a case to play any of these guys. In terms of like the backup centers, sure, you can get to Mark Williams if you trust the minutes. There's always that chance you can get a random DMP. But yeah, good amount of interest in Charlotte. Chicago side, it's really just going to be DeRozan or Vooch for me. That's really it. Levine is an okay secondary play. He got there last game with 14 rebounds, but he's just kind of there. I still think they're all kind of too priced up for me as of right now. In terms of the value, you're going to split minutes between Kobe, Ayo, and Caruso. They're all going to see about 20-ish minutes each. Kobe's the most boomer bust. Then I'd say Caruso is next. Ayo's the most consistent, but he's not getting the most points. So I think I'd stick with just going with Caruso at 4,100 and just hope he hits the shots and get you a couple steals if you want to go to him. Pelicans and Dallas. I do think Brandon Ingram is too cheap here, 7-1. Played 33 minutes, did not shoot the ball well, still got you 37 fantasy points. He's been decently productive when he's out there in terms of just getting those peripheral stats. It really just comes down to if he can hit a shot. So I do like him. I do like CJ here. J-Val looks solid here. The minutes have been terrible on him recently, but he's always worth a GPP look. Don't think you need to go to the wings. Larry Nance has been priced up to 4.7. So right now it's just like really have only interest in the top two guys for me, Ingram and Brandon. Maybe a solid secondary play would be J-Val. Now that Larry Nance has been priced up to 4.7, if people are still going to chase Larry Nance, I don't mind taking that shot on J-Val here in this matchup. And that's really it. And then moving on to Dallas. Luka 12-3. If you can get, if you can spend up for him, we know what Luka's going to get you, so I don't mind him there. In terms of like the secondary plays, I think my favorite one would be probably Hardaway Jr., even though he's very score independent, hasn't been good recently. But now that Luka's back, this team should get more into, the normal rhythm that they were in. Bullock is there. He'll play the minutes, but he's just god-awful. So I don't think you need to force anything with the Dallas side. I'd really just, stick with either Luka or Hardaway, and that's really it. Moving on to Golden State, as I mentioned, they're probably going to rest Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Wiggins. Poole has been starting. They said they're going to rest their starters, or most likely will. So it'll be interesting to see if they do rest Poole. I'm assuming they don't. So obviously, Poole at 6,500 becomes pretty much a must play. Even DiVincenzo there at 5,200, it's going to be pretty much a must play if Green, Wiggins, Clay, and Steph are out. Looney will play. He's played a decent amount when they've ruled out the starters. Like he'll get at least like 20-ish minutes, especially if Jokic should play, so they're going to have Looney on Jokic. He should see at least 20, so you can definitely get to him. I don't mind it. But then Kuminga, Lamb, and Ty Jerome are going to be the rest of the next 3 favorites for me. It'll be interesting to see if Wiseman's in and if he gets like the start. If he does at the flat minimum price, you could definitely take a shot on him. Obviously, there's some foul risk, but we'll have to wait and see kind of what's going to happen with the starters here. If they're actually going to rest, if they are, who's going to start. But yeah, all the players for the Golden State side are way too cheap. So you could literally play like 4 or 5 of them if you really wanted to. I'd start with Poole, DiVincenzo. They're going to be the most productive. And then Kuminga's way too cheap here. We know if he gets the minutes, he can be very productive there. Lamb, he should look to shoot more as well. I think he'll be like 4th option. We've seen him be aggressive at times, but I do think he'll fall back to the 4th option. And then Ty Jerome, he'll be another guard off the bench. We saw versus Cleveland. We know he has very solid upside when he plays and gets the minutes, 31, 30, even 23. I mean, at the flat minimum price tag, it's just hard not to get to these Warrior guys just because they're all way, 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 way too cheap. So they're going to be super popular, super chalky, but it's hard not to just play these guys and get to them because of they're just price tags and their projected minutes and usage. So really like them even in a tough matchup versus Denver. On the Denver side, you can go to Jokic. I think it would be a decently contrarian play to play him against these scrubs because people are going to expect this game to blow out. But I think Jokic makes for a very solid play. The rest of the team just kind of there. If Aaron Gordon's out, it does help guys like Jokic. A little bit of bump for them. Porter Jr. Maybe they'll start Zeke alongside Jokic. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, not a lot of interest besides Jokic for me. Moving on to last game, Clippers versus Milwaukee. Should be a great game to watch. On this side, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard are going to be the top 2 guys to get to. Don't mind Powell in a GPP setting, off the bench. He should be aggressive, should be playing about 22 to 30-ish minutes, depending on how he's shooting the ball. So I don't mind him. Zubac is always there as well. He should see the minutes. As I mentioned versus the Bulls, he should be in line to play a decent amount of minutes, just to be able to guard Vooch. Only played 28, but still got you there with a double-double and 3 blocks. So another one of the spots where he's going to have to guard Brook Lopez. He plays a decent amount, at least 30 minutes. So I do expect Zubac to kind of match that at 5,300. So I do like him a good amount there. Does have some great upside, as we can see. That's really it. If Morris is out, we can look to Batum as a solid value play at 3,600. But once again, I think the value play is really just going to be all coming from the Golden State side because they're way too cheap. Even if the game does blow out, those guys should still all see the minutes. Moving on to Milwaukee, don't mind Giannis as a spend up. Drew's there. Brook Lopez is always a decent tournament option in the mid-range. And, Middleton, still seeing about 20-ish minutes. If he's off the minutes limit, I do like him, but I still expect him to be on some sort of minutes limit, whether it gets raised to like 25-ish. And that's really it for me. No need to get to any of the value pieces. You could look to Joe Ingles, seen about mid-20s, but once again, I think you just kind of stick with the Golden State Warriors guys. So right now, this is what we're kind of looking at in terms of our lineup. I'm going to go ahead and throw Jokic in here just as a little bit of a bring back. Obviously, this is not the NFL. You don't need a bring back, but hopefully the Warriors could keep this game close somehow. So I'm going to throw Jokic in there for that price tag. I think he's a little bit too cheap there, even with the blowout risk. Or let's just say, let's just go back to Anthony Davis. Even though he pisses us off, he's super, super soft. Let's just go back to him. Then we're left with 6,800 left over for the small forward spot. You could fit like a Paul George in there if you wanted to. Let's go to the forward spot on this side. Let's see here. I do really like the spot for DeRozan against Charlotte. I think that's a very solid spot there. But once again, we're going to have to wait for the Memphis news. I do think there's a chance they rest some of those guys. So it really could be just like a lineup where you put all of the Warriors players in as well as the Memphis players. And you're going to have to make some decisions on the guards. I'd obviously stick with Poole, DiVincenzo, and Tyus Jones over a guy like, Jerome. But maybe you can fit Jerome in that utility spot there. But yeah, there's a ton of guards you're going to want to get to. Obviously, as I said, the standouts will be Jordan Poole, DiVincenzo, and Tyus Jones. And then the fourth one I'd like to get to would be Ty Jerome. Obviously, I think Donovan Mitchell's way too cheap here against Memphis. But once again, there's that blowout risk if Memphis does rest their guys. So a lot of injury news we had to keep up with, or I guess resting news. So make sure to stay updated with me on Twitter at HeartDFS. But yeah, to finish out this lineup, let's see here. we'll throw in, I guess we'll just chuck in, we'll go to Paul George here. Don't mind him there at 9,000, and then we have 4,600 left over for the small forward spot. So let's see who we want to get to here. Not a lot to like in this small forward range. Not a lot. I mean, is Struce? Maybe Struce, if, you know, those two guys get ruled out, he should see a little bit more minutes. So maybe him. Don't mind him. DiVincenzo is small forward eligible. So let's put him in the small forward spot. I think we're just going to have to fill in someone right there real fast, just so we can put DiVincenzo in the small forward spot, take Luke Kennard back out, 4,600 for the shooting guard spot. Not a lot to love there in this range. I think we'll just go to, I think Paul George. We'll throw Paul George back in here. Sorry, guys. And then we'll go to, I guess for right now, we'll just throw in Struce right now for just a placeholder. Don't put him in unless we get that news that, you know, these Gabe Vincent, Victor Oladipo will possibly be sitting out. So yeah, that does it for the potential lineup. The core plays, as I said, the core plays are going to be most likely these Warriors players here. Poole, DiVincenzo, Kuminga, and Ty Jerome. Obviously, they're way too cheap. The rest of the starters should rest. The question mark will be Jordan Poole, if he's considered a starter and if he's going to rest. If he does, obviously it just opens up the floor for Ty Jerome and some of those other guards like Moses Moody to get more minutes. So yeah, just stay updated with me on Twitter, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.